Boom shakalaka, checkity check, 1 2, testing testicles. It is the chocolate Nubian soul brother in the house. All right, ladies and gentlemen, freaks and geeks, brothers and sisters around the world, it is yours truly, Crucial, aka the esoteric noetic, aka the chocolate Nubian soul brother from Ghana, West Africa, dropping the wisdomatic truth bombs here down under in Melbourne, Australia. You can rely on me because I'm on team. Meh. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, click on the bell, tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your momos, drop us the comments, and let us know what it is. I salute everyone that has been doing so. Mwah! Kisses, hugs, and belly rubs. Your chocolate Nubian loves you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to speak to you about a very serious issue. This is the topic of the supernatural. As you've seen from the title, the supernatural does not exist. You see, there are a lot of no-nos out there, these hooligans that would speak about ghosts and UFOs and the paranormal, all of this crazy hogwash. But I'm here to dispel all this nonsense and tell you unequivocally, unassailably, that the supernatural is nothing other than a. No, ladies and gentlemen, here's the thing. Here's the thing. It all comes down to definition. The definitions. The devil is in the details. When we are speaking about the supernatural, people have this misinformed idea that the supernatural is something outside of this natural world. It is super natural, beyond this physical Euclidean meat space, right? Beyond the natural. And when we're referring to natural, we're speaking about that which is of the natural world, that which is of the earth. Most people, I think, would agree that the definition of natural is something dealing with what we can observe, what we are aware of. And the thing is, as we broaden our understanding of the natural universe, we realize that there are many things within this natural universe that we are not aware of. The supernatural does not exist because any phenomenon that takes place is part of the natural universe. It's just that our level of understanding has not met with the reality. And as a result, we refer to this as being supernatural. Boom shakalaka, right? You see, you guys listen to the chocolate news for a reason. And unfortunately, we still live in a world where a lot of the mainstream scientists do not understand the esoteric understanding of this Euclidean meat space. Much of this knowledge was understood. It's not as if we are constantly growing in the realm of technology and we are at a point that has never been met before. If you know anything about history, you realize that history often repeats. And in this cyclical nature, empires rise, then they fall. You have a look at pre-Diluvian civilizations like Atlantis and Lemuria, and they had a tremendous understanding about many of the things that we are discovering now. I mean, it wasn't even that long ago where the scientific community believed that heavier than air flight was impossible. It took 5 years after the Wright brothers had proven that this was so for the Smithsonian Institute to change their paper on heavier than air flight being impossible. Science often takes a long time to catch up with reality. And what seemed to be in the realm of supernatural just yesterday is now fact, fiction. It wasn't that long ago, over 10 years ago, when I was explaining to my friends that it's possible to actually have these devices, EEG headsets, that can read your mind, where you'll essentially have force like abilities. You can be like Obi-Wan. Yes, Obi-Wan has special latent abilities known as the Force, right? Well, the interesting thing is, in this day and age, we can recreate Force, at least on a technological level. And look, all technology is a way of allowing you to manifest things in this Euclidean meat space. Sometimes the technology is dealing with the mind, using these latent abilities that are manifest within you, psychic energy, metaphysical sciences, and so forth. Sometimes it's using magnets and code. It's all a way of influencing change. And fundamentally, we can bring about a better world through our understanding of many of these principles. All science, all technology really is knowledge, understanding, and we have different words for it. Sometimes we refer to the supernatural as being things that we do not understand. Sometimes we refer to it as being hoo-ha, but fundamentally, everything that is can be explained. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about some weird science and fucking magic that is going on in the world at the moment. But it's not really weird. It's pretty self-evident. And one of these things is what's going on in the UFO scene. Now, there's been a UFO conference as of late. I think it's the first one in about 50 years where they've had an open disclosure, open discussion about many of the phenomena that have been taking place in the realm of unidentified flying objects. I think they call them UAPs now, unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs. But fundamentally, we're dealing with things that we cannot recognize, that we don't fully understand, but very much do exist. For a long time now, the United States government, governments around the world have been collecting information in regards to these unexplainable aircrafts, extraterrestrial phenomena, and so forth. And they've been hiding this information from you. A lot of people say, well, why would they hide something like that? Oh, don't you know there's the Freedom of Information Act? Because this is what governments do. They hide information for a number of reasons because they don't want people gaining access to what's really going on. A lot of the times, the information they're dealing with is top secret, dealing with military applications. And uh, a common idea also is that people were not ready. People are not ready for this kind of information. The effect that this would have on societies if they were to release this information in regards to what's really been going on, it would make them beholden to the people that would not be ready to discuss many of these issues dealing with the meaning of life. I mean, you have a look at how this would affect religions, how this would affect the system per se, if we accepted the idea that there were actually extraterrestrials. But one thing we're seeing more and more is that these topics that were fringe are now coming to light, and they are being discussed as if they are not something of weird science, but of actual reality. The discussions, though, in the conference, at least the discussions I've seen, are very weak at best. They're still having these discussions as to what these things are. When the truth is, and here's the thing: when we're speaking about the government, there are many factions of the government. There are black op operations and so forth. There are many people within the government that don't actually know what's going on, that are supposed to know. Like NASA, most of the people in NASA have no idea in regards to what's really going on in terms of extraterrestrials and so forth. There are organizations within the government, black ops, the Navy. I mean, you have a look at the work of Bob Lazar, and he often speak about the departments that were involved in a lot of these cover-ups, and a lot of these departments are clandestine. And as a result, many of the people that are supposed to have knowledge in regards to what's going on, they say things that are that give these convoluted answers in regards to what these UAPs are. Sometimes they literally do not know what they are, and other times they're obviously playing this game. They expect us to believe that in the last 50 or so years they haven't uncovered anything that is definitive. No, there have been thousands, hundreds of thousands of reports. I myself have seen these unidentified craft, and there have been so many reports of extraterrestrials that the idea of saying that this is the figment of a figment of people's imaginations could not be further from the truth. There is not only ancient records relating to this, the ancient records from civilizations all around the world, from the Aztecs, Mayans, the Dogon tribe of Mali, West Africa, to the ancient Sumerian, Mesopotamian region. Many of the texts there, cuneiform writings speaking about this, to the Celtic mythology. Pretty much every civilization speaks about visitation, but more recently, we have seen that there are many people reporting this phenomenon, people experiencing abductions and so forth. Now, granted, there are people that come up with ridiculous stories, or sometimes people hallucinate these things and so forth. But to presume that all of this stuff is hogwash, well, that could not be further from the truth. Many of these reports are not built of air and imagination. They very much are real. And the idea that the US government is not aware of this, or bearing in mind that the US government is obviously made up of many esoteric entities and so forth, is absolutely ridiculous. They've been compiling this information for a long time, not just through uh, the many more well-known projects like Project Bluebird, I think was called, and so forth. But there are most of the things that go on in this world are not things within the exoteric, meaning open circles. They are things within closed circles. In fact, anything that is fascinating that really goes on delving into the world of war, paranormal, is stuff that most of us are not aware of unless we make a conscious effort to try to uncover these truths. That is why I, the chocolate Nubian soul brother, the esoteric noetic, deals in this kind of stuff. If you really want to know what's going on in the world, you have to be willing to dig a little deeper, move away from the mainstream media. I don't call myself the esoteric noetic because it sounds cool. I call myself the esoteric noetic because I deal with the hidden, that which is hidden but must come to light, must come to light. And noetical sciences because there is a science dealing with things that are of the mind, psychology, consciousness. And this is a fascinating area of study that the scientific world, the mainstream science, is still uncovering. We've come a long way in the last 100 years. You know, there was a time when people thought concepts like quantum mechanics were built of air and imagination, but now we are at an age where we essentially have. Last time I checked, we actually have quantum computers now. I came across an article recently. Let's see if I can find it. That was speaking about the first supercomputer, a quantum computer that has been developed. Oh, what next? Teleportation, flying to Mars. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, it is a good time to be alive. We are going to be seeing some technologies over the next few years that redefine what it means to be a human. Some for the better, some for the worse. We are very much at a crossroads where we are playing around with the stuff of nature, playing around with the atom. I mean, we did that 100 years ago, the splitting of the atom, right? But now we're playing around with DNA. We're manipulating DNA, as many of you, I'm sure, are aware. So, just in regards to the point I was making about the world's first supercomputer. All right, so this article I came across is speaking about a supercomputer that has been developed. Okay. Frontier, built by Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee, USA today, earned the #1 spot on the top 500 list, a twice yearly ranking of all the fastest known supercomputers in the world. So essentially, it is a supercomputer. Its performance is measured in exaflops, uh, 2.5 times that of the record holder. Frontier is ushering a new era of exascale computing to solve the world's biggest scientific challenges. So this stuff is fucking insane. When researchers gain access to the fully operational Frontier system later this year, it will mark the culmination of work that began over 3 years ago involving hundreds of talented people across the Department of Energy and our industry partners at HPE and AMD, said Jeff Nichols. So the article is talking about a lot of computer jargon here, but fundamentally, we're speaking about computers that are, I mean, we're moving at an exponential rate of growth at the moment. And that is a big deal. It's one thing when you see technology rising and rising, but you reach this point, the technological singularity, which is supposed to be around 2025. Wow, it's not even that long ahead. It's a few more years, 3 more years. And according to figures like Ray Kurzweil, who is this futurist, he believes that we're going to see a point now where the growth is going to be at such an exponential rate. Now we have computers that are so many times more powerful than they were a few years ago, that the growth is going to be so great that unless, of course, we augment our consciousness with AI, we will not be able to perceive the rate of growth. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm quite happy to have my consciousness staying in this biological entity. I don't want to be fusing this stuff with Elon Musk's Neuralink device. I mean, I don't even trust. I don't trust the government or any of these corporations with their software. Last thing I'm going to do is trust them with my body or my consciousness. And you know, a lot of people are apprehensive about these technologies that are being implemented, rightfully so, because the more possibility for change, the more possibility for risk. I mean, this is the very nature of reality. With opportunity comes risk. And unfortunately, there are always powers that try to mitigate this risk. These government entities, these dark brothers, often making the argument that they need to do it for the greater good. Therefore, they want to restrict a lot of these technologies, or they want to force these technologies onto you. And then there are those that are mindful of this change or apprehensive about it, but do not believe in advocating for force control, because fundamentally that is the distinction between those that are what we would call the powers to be and those that believe in freedom, those that actually have the animating force working through them and believe in the most beautiful gift, the gift of free will, the gift of choice that is endowed within all of God's creations, ladies and gentlemen. When I say God, I'm making reference to the higher universal intelligence that runs this Euclidean meat space. I am not a religious man. I am a spiritual man. There is a difference. There is a recognition that there is an inherent intelligence that governs this universe. Tesla would speak about this, that he had made progress in understanding that there was some kind of energy, some intelligent design, some force that governed all of creation. And we come up with different words to express this: God, Krishna, Buddha, Allah, the unifying field. But it is that which is. Boom shakalaka. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about some stuff that's going on in the world right now. As we are moving closer and closer to this state of ultimate inversion, in fact, many of us would argue it is here. Government has control now not only over what you can say, at least this is where it's headed, but they are trying to control your very body, what you can put in your body. And we are seeing this implemented through systems like programmable money, through cryptocurrencies that are being used, have been usurped by the government and trying to use that against us to track what we do, where we go, what we purchase, trying to restrict us through this social credit system that wants to shut down our bank accounts and anything that will allow us to essentially live in this world because we've been naughty. I mean, this is where it's moving. And this stuff is not built of air and imagination anymore. I mean, this is the stuff that has openly been spoken about is being implemented. You see, when I speak about conspiracy theory, I talk about things that have been planned openly, that certain powers to be are actually openly saying that they are going to implement. It's not in the realm of speculation. That's something that the esoteric noetic stays away from. I'm not going to speak about what I think people are doing, what I believe. I don't speak about what I believe. I speak about what I know, ladies and gentlemen. There is a difference. If you believe, you do not know. I know for a fact that there are certain factions that are trying to bring about more control, trying to suppress your unalienable freedoms. Now, their objectives are many. Objectives are, some of them claim to be benevolent dictators, like this Justin Trudeau character, that fundamentally wants to suspend your ability to defend yourselves through the enacting of measures to take away your guns and so forth. And they claim that it's in order to keep everyone safe. Well, if that was truly your objective, if your objective was to save lives, why not focus on cigarette smoking? Cigarette smoking kills far more people. There are many other things that kill far more people. And you know what I'm talking about. If you have a look at the mortality rate that has been rising at a tremendous level recently, you realize it's connected to something that was mandated. All right? That's all I'm going to say. Now, if the government was really concerned about reducing deaths, they weren't concerned about lining their pockets from these massive big pharma and so forth, then they wouldn't be advocating for this stuff. They wouldn't be. I mean, if they were so concerned about, I mean, if the government was truly concerned about health, if they were going to mandate anything, you'd be thinking it would be to mandate good eating, right? Get everyone eating a healthy plant-based diet, getting out in the sunlight. But no, the kind of things that are mandated are things that are going to line the pockets of these governments, these big industries, because they're receiving kickbacks. This is how it works. It's all part of this almighty dollar. But more than that, it is part of an agenda that has been going on for a long time. Not just the last 10 years, not the last 100 years, ladies and gentlemen, but many millennia. Oh, I see we got a familiar face in the house. We got Michelena. What is happening, girl? Yeah, it's all about the organic foods, bringing it back to nature. And that's an interesting word, nature. I made the title of this video, The Supernatural. What is nature? I mean, some people say nature is what they see around us without human involvement, right? So when you look at David Attenborough documentary, you think nature, right? Some would say that nature is everything. And then the chocolate Nubian would say that when we're defining nature, we're actually making reference to the ancient Egyptian word neter or neter. This is where the word nature comes from. It's dealing with an underlying principle of the universe. God, call it what you will, but that which is of the divine principle. And you can take on the view that everything that is of nature. Now, granted, there is the view that there is definitely divine plan and principle, but what's actually happened is that this stuff has been circumvented by entities known as the Dark Brothers or figures. If you follow the lore of the Tuatha De Danann, the Celtic mythology, or you have a look at the ancient Sumerian writings, you'll find that there was some kind of intervention, and there are certain figures referred to as the Anunnaki, but essentially making reference to the non-terrestrial beings that came about, and they implemented this natural environment, human beings per se, the humanoid, and through genetic manipulation, they essentially brought about a new human, the Adama, known as that which we call Adam. You know, if you have a look at the biblical story, which is essentially derived from the Enuma Elish or these ancient Sumerian writings, essentially through the manipulation of the humans, they brought about this new being that was infused with an alien kind of genetics that was not as naturalistic, that had certain inclinations, that was prone to greed, prone to violence. And this is what we see coming about in the current agenda. This seems to be this malignant being that does not seem to behave in nature with all of the other surrounding beings on this planet. And that being is man. You know, a lot of us, we tend to look at man as being part of nature, right? But you have a look at, if we were to look at the planet Earth, we would see this beautiful globe. I'm sorry, flat earthers, the world is not flat. And more importantly, you would see greenery, you'd see these you'd see land masses, you'd see the blue earth. I mean, the majority of the planet is surrounded by water, right? That's why it's called the blue earth. Interesting story behind that has to do with the creation of the planet, but that's another thing, that aside. But you would see this weird kind of black, almost cancerous like malignant tumor growing around. You have a look at all these dark blots, you know, all these lights, and that's the creation of man. It's like you have a look at the planet and everything seems to be working in harmony, right? For the most part. But then you see man, you see our creations, and it's the one thing that does not seem to be working synergistically, working in nature. That being said, I mean, in a sense, we are part of nature. I mean, there is not only positive beings on this planet that seem to work synergistically with the planet, but there are also beings that bring about this entropy, that bring about destruction on this planet. And a lot of people would say that this is the nature of reality. There is both the yin, the yang, the good, the bad. Need to bring balance. But I would say that whereas there is the yin and the yang, there's this energy of I mean, yin and yang, masculine and feminine. I mean, it's not referring to good and evil per se. It's referring to these archetypes. One being that of the conscious, the logic, the reasoning, logos, or the masculine principle, and then the other being of the feminine principle, intuition. And there definitely is a balance in the universe dealing with these two forces. But when we're speaking about evil, I make a distinction between that. I see that as being a force that is about not working synergistically with the planet. It is about control. It is about trying to subvert the will of the individual. It corrupts. It brings about negativity. I'm not one of these spiritual hippies that speaks about there being only love in this world. I think in order for us to move on and grow and become more enlightened, we need to understand what is going on. It requires us to bring about this masculine principle of logic reasoning, looking at what is going on. That's why I call myself the esoteric noetic. And a huge part of what is going on is identifying the fact that there are forces out there that are not good. I don't subscribe to this hippie worldview that everything is beautiful. People that are coming around and raping my family, killing people, forcing them to do things, undergo experimental boom shakaluckers, and mass murdering populations, which has happened throughout history. You only have to have, and this is the thing, there's a lot of stuff we speak about in terms of what is and what will happen that is in the realm of like theory, even though we know it's true, right? For the most part. But then only you only need to look at history to have a look at the horrible things that have happened that are objective, the mass genocides that have taken place. Have a look at the history of the United States, the indigenous people that have been slaughtered, the American Indians. You have a look at what happened in the Second World War, things that human beings tend to do to each other, to realize that there are very malignant forces at play here. And no, it's not just a matter of just survival. No, there are forces that are hell bent on trying to bring about oppression because they enjoy it. And I would say that it's not the vast majority of the human beings on this planet, but there definitely is a malignant force. There are those that are more psychopathic in their nature, and we refer to these as the 1%, the elite, the few. Because the truth is that there are malignant people in the world. The vast majority of people in this world, though, I do believe are, for the most part, people that just want to live a happy life. They just go along with the status quo. They may not have a tremendous amount of courage, a tremendous amount of will to go against the moral certitudes and so forth. When they see a great injustice, they'd much rather just pledge their allegiance to these Orwellian figures. It's much easier for them to relinquish their rights, their freedoms, than to live in a world of insecurity and actually go out and stand against the tyranny. But then there is a faction of people that are fundamentally opposed to what is going on. These are the 1% that are always fighting against these certitudes, that plant themselves like a tree beside the river of truth and say nay to the unfolding tyranny. And we've seen this in every age. We see these in figures like Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Joan of Arc. Have a look at every age. Jesus Christ, Buddha, Krishna, Allah, that are willing to fight against the tyranny. These disseminators of the wisdomatic truth bomb, these Aquarians, these people that are willing to stand against the status quo and beat to the rhythm of their own hearts. And granted, they may not have been loved during their time. They are adorned because, in retrospect, we always look at these figures as being in the right when we wake up, we sober up, and we see the atrocities of our ways. Not that long ago, a few hundred years ago, we thought it was okay to have slaves. Slavery was ubiquitous in the ancient world. And then somewhere down the line, once we realize the iniquities of this horrible evil, we look back on people that tried to abolish this stuff, the abolitionists, and we now no longer want to throw stones at them, and we say that these were the people that were visionaries. And it's weird. It's always tricky when people are looking at what is just, what is right, based off of what is accepted within the status quo. They fall into believing that just because something happens, it must be okay. It's only when you look back in retrospect, or unless, of course, you're the kind of person that bases your concept of what is just based off of the moral compass that is residing within each and every single one of us, your inherent alignment to this logos, to this conscience, to your anaharta, as opposed to just doing it because the almighty Joe Biden or Daniel Andrews or whatever president, prime minister, or leaders in charge says it is so. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chocolate Nubian is not someone that subscribes to the idea that there are no battles worth fighting. And I think it's important, in order for us to bring about this age of enlightenment, to not only bring about positivity and shoot the love and passion into the world, but to identify the things that we must work on an individual level, and also on a collective level. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, that is definitely the tyranny of forced boom shakalakas, of restriction of people's freedoms. I mean, we are seeing this at a point that is ghastly. It's just unimaginable. And it's not like tyranny is a new phenomenon. Tyranny has been going about in every age. It's not a new thing. It happened in every age. Back during the noughties, I mean, we'd be speaking about the tremendous tyranny that was unfolding after the whole September, the 9/11 incident, right? And the last few years are no different. Granted, I would argue that it is far more pronounced. A lot of people are becoming aware of the fact that what is going on is crazy, but it is not a recent phenomenon. And it is incumbent upon us to fight this stuff regardless. But also important for us to find meaning, find passion, find love. It's important to do things that reinvigorate yourself with what it means to be a feeling being. Enjoy yourself, have fun. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, I try to make these things funny every once in a while. I try not to get bogged down on the seriousness, the plight that we are engaged in. And a lot of people, I feel, they probably look at my content and they say, "This guy isn't serious. Look, mate, you're too silly for me to take you seriously." But real genius is in silliness. I think life is too important to be taken seriously, to quote Oscar Wilde. And laughter is a beautiful thing. It is often referred to as the great neutralizer in ancient texts because it balances you, it grounds you. There's a grounding spirit to comedy, right? Ever been in a situation where you're incredibly angry, heated up, and then someone cracks a joke, and then you find all that tension releasing? Yeah, mate. That's laughter. And it's important, I think, to find time to smile. Have a Coke and a smile, ladies and gentlemen. Don't let all these Orwellian dictators take away your groundedness, your center. Ladies and gentlemen, freaks and geeks, I just want to end this video by saying thank you every single person that has been watching my videos. Lately, I think it's a courtesy of the YouTube algorithms, or you know what? I'm going to take responsibility where it's due. Truth is, I haven't been able to speak about a lot of the stuff that I think a lot of people want to hear about. Had to censor a lot of this stuff, lest the powers to be shut me down. So, yeah, a lot of this stuff has not drawn the attention, I'd imagine, of a lot of people. But I do appreciate the guys that tune in, the guys and gals. Thank you for checking this out. Thank you for telling your mom, telling your momos about the Chocolate Nubian. Be sure to like this, subscribe. Make sure you click on that bell. I notice a lot of you probably are not getting my videos because this is just the nature of the beast that censors everything, right? That might make people think outside of this reality. But I do appreciate people sharing this. Continue to share this. Continue to support me if you feel so inclined. I've got a Patreon, and every once in a while I do interviews. I have been a bit slack as of late on that. Guys, if you want to support me on a regular basis, be sure to check that out. But I am going to get back to putting some more extra content on the Patreon. I tend to release the unedited versions of the podcast, which I do on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. So be sure to tune in for that. And yeah, if you guys want to check out my music, because the Esoteric Noetic is also an artist, a singer. Also go by Chris Schul. That's my artist name. I'm going to be releasing some new music. I got a single that's going to be coming out this year. So you guys can check us out on the TikTok, serenading the teeny boppers and the senoritas. Or you guys can check out my Spotify. I'm on iTunes. I am a polymath. I'm a singer, dancer, and a dropper of the wisdomatic truth bombs. But ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to share this video. Send this to a random person and tell them to check out the Chocolate Noobs. Remember, there are 3 things that cannot remain hidden for long. Remember that despite the power of the sun, it is always night on half of the planet. That there are a lot of problems in this world, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't mean that there is no good. It doesn't mean that the light is not shining. But unfortunately, it's just the nature of this reality that it takes time for the truth to come out. It takes time for the light to reach upon every aspect of society. But rest assured, it will reach. The ray of light will manifest into this Euclidean meat space. Until next time, peace out. Keep it real. Peace be upon your butt cheeks. And keep making those ethical gains. Oh, and check out my new book, Vegan Prince, Warrior King. It is a book that speaks about, it's not about veganism per se. It's just about trying to be a warrior in this world, a warrior to all the beings on this planet. Regardless of what we are doing on this planet, I think it's important for us to strive to be the change that we want to see in the world. And some of us do that through just being the light through the music, the content that we share in terms of that art. Some of us do that by trying to make a stand for injustices, dealing with the abuse of animals or dealing with abuse of people, the abuse of tyrannical governments and so forth. But nonetheless, we war on. We war because as protectors of the truth, of the light, it's incumbent for us to be a beacon of light for those that have lost the will to burn. And that is always the most innocent beings that we share this planet with. Peace out. Until next time, Surya Namaskar. Namaste, Chris Shul.